Let's bring in Kellyanne Conway, former senior counselor to President Trump, now president of KA Consulting and host of the Here's the Deal with Kellyanne on Fox Nation. Kellyanne, great to have you on the show. I wanted to play a little bit of sound because I thought it was kind of interesting. This is former President Bill Clinton on MSNBC talking about the president's cabinet.
Can you believe who Donald Trump is picking to be in a second Trump administration?
Yeah. Well, you have to listen to Donald Trump. He's been very forthright about how he views the world. He's interested in people who are loyal to him 100% of the time, no matter what the issue, no matter what the facts, no matter who gets hurt. He wants people who just say yes.
I guess if you want to accomplish things, you really do want some people who are loyal to you, though, Kellyanne.
Sure, but they're mistaking this, and I'm sure they're still not over Trump Derangement Syndrome stage 5, for which there's no cure, therapeutic, or vaccine, and not even a decisive, sweeping, authoritative victory that created this geographic, demographic breadth for Donald Trump unseen will cure that. He wants loyalty to the America First agenda, excuse me, but he's filling the cabinet with people who he's worked with before, who understand him, who he understands, and also, Trace, let's be fair, he's putting people in there who ran against him for president. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., folks who didn't always support him have called him names. He's looking past all of that because he wants a lean team of America First warriors who are going to, you know what the mandate was? Get things done quickly. Everybody in this country knows what the problems are. They know we've got 5, 6 people doing the same darn job and, quote, working from home here in Washington. We're paying for that nonsense. And so he's hiring people who are going to get the agenda through. I didn't hear Bill Clinton and Jonathan Capehart and the rest of the people at MSNBC saying Alejandro Mayorkas is lying to the country as the DHS secretary. The border is not, quote, closed. The border is not secure, as he said in 2021. Look, the polls speak for themselves. Donald Trump is plus 18% right now for his transition, as opposed to plus 1 8 years ago when people were still past it, couldn't get over the shock of his election. Now they know he's going to get in there and make a huge difference and do it swiftly. Yeah, Mayorkas, by the way, went before Congress several times and said the very same thing, that the border is not open. I want to play some sound from not MSNBC, but The View, because it's instructive on how not to make these thought processes. And then I'll get your thoughts on this, Kellyanne.
I'm not going to waste a lot of time on what he might do. But at the I'm gonna wait.
I'm not gonna wait and see. I mean, this guy is told us he's a retribution. He's going to be a dictator.
There's nothing to be done until you know what you're fighting. It's pissing in the wind doesn't help.
I spent weeks telling people that he was apocalyptic. I'm not going to change now because it's still the same man.
Not treating every single thing like
I think that's when we lose credibility.
You would think there would be some analysis somewhere, but it's nothing but meltdown. Meltdown day after day after day, Kellyanne.
It's one gear, one volume, one piece of content, and it's tiresome. And the country just rejected it. It was The View where Kamala Harris was completely unable, Trace, to answer the simplest of all questions. What would be different? Name one thing that would be different about you and Joe Biden. She couldn't do it. She said she couldn't think of anything. And the opposite is true of President Trump. People, I can tell you what he's going to do. Energy independence, get us out of these foreign wars, seal up the border. 10 million people have come here illegally, and folks have watched them get debit cards and cash and cell phones and clothing and hotel rooms. They're saying that's not fair. He's going to make everyday life more affordable. There are things that a president can do. It takes a 4-letter word called will. And I like the fact that he is also picking who he wants in his cabinet. And on top of that, there are people who know how to communicate a message. That broadcasts to me that President Trump wants his men and women in his cabinet to go forth and explain to the American people bit by bit what's happening, so that he's not just the only messenger. They're explaining, here's what's going on at transportation, at energy, at agriculture, et cetera. I think it's great, and we should all give grace and latitude to the newly elected president. Great things could happen.
Kellyanne Conway, great to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.